The Phoenix Suns have had an absolutely awful season, but they might be on the verge of doing the dumbest thing possible and firing head coach Mike Budenholzer. Why would this be such a bad decision for Phoenix? Well, I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Let's dive in to what's going on. So this is aggregated by NBA Central from Amico Hoops, Sam Amico. Again, take this with a huge grain of salt here, but the reporting being that the Phoenix Suns could fire Mike Budenholzer in the offseason to appease Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. All right, so first and foremost, whether or not we want to buy into the sourcing on this, typically when a team has a terrible, no good, very bad season, as the Phoenix Suns have, changes wind up getting made. You look at the Suns, they're the 11th seed right now in the Western Conference. They are playing joyless basketball. They are not fun to watch. Their defense is horrendous, god awful on the defensive side of the ball. And you see their best case scenario right now is, let's say the Dallas Mavericks continue to completely fall apart under the weight of injuries and the Suns somehow catch up, which, by the way, it's not a certainty. The Suns have the most difficult schedule remaining in the NBA. It is far from certain that the Suns, even though they're just a game and a half back of the Mavs, that they will actually catch up. But even if they do, let's say they do, and they spare themselves the embarrassment of missing the play-in in the West. Well, first of all, I wouldn't even pick them to survive the play-in, but let's say they do survive the play-in. Guess what their reward would be? They get sent home, swept almost certainly by the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's been a disastrous season in Phoenix, and so, of course, changes are going to be made. And there's a problem, and that's simply that the Phoenix Suns have Bradley Beal with a no-trade clause. The move would be to trade Bradley Beal. That's what they would like to do. They can't do it. He's got a no trade. Maybe he'll be more open to it this summer, but so far Bradley Beal has resisted being traded by the Phoenix Suns. They're also not going to trade Devin Booker. They made that very clear. This was Suns owner Matt Ishbia, when asked about trading Devin Booker, didn't even let the question finish, said it's never going to happen. It's silly. So here's what I'll tell you. I have Devin Booker in the prime. In order to win an NBA championship, you've got to have a superstar. You've got to have a great player. And the Suns are simply not willing to part with Devin Booker. And for his part, Devin Booker has made it very clear that he wants to stay in Phoenix. He wants to win in Phoenix. So something has to change because obviously this is not working. And so things are going to change here. My belief and the general belief around the NBA is that it's going to be a Kevin Durant trade. It will be a Kevin Durant trade that changes things in Phoenix. They're going to turn Kevin Durant and his $54 million, $54.7 million under contract next season, they're going to turn him into multiple assets, whether that's draft capital, whether that's a money-saving move, whether that is young talent, win now pieces, maybe a combination of some of those things. They're going to trade Kevin Durant this summer. This is the most likely outcome for the Phoenix Suns ahead of firing Mike Budenholzer. But what if we get into a situation where the Suns, given that Kevin Durant has the specter of free agency looming to potentially scare off suitors. Let's say there's a team that really wants to trade for Kevin Durant. Well, Kevin Durant is extension eligible this summer, $54.7 million expiring contract. Let's say it's, I don't know, just to throw a name out there, the Orlando Magic. Let's say the Orlando Magic want Kevin Durant, and they're going to stack up a bunch of stuff to go get him. They're going to stack up, let's say they're going to go crazy, and they're going to give Jalen Suggs to go get Kevin Durant, and they're going to add in a bunch of draft picks, and they're going to add in some young players that have some interest around the NBA, right? They're going to stack together a bunch of different players and contracts and all that kind of stuff to get Kevin Durant. Or Franz Wagner, let's say they're going to move on from him. And the Suns say, oh yeah, we want to do this. We would give us that young talent. Great. Kevin Durant could say, yeah, Orlando, I don't want to go to, I don't like Disney World. I don't want to be there. And then you know what would happen? Kevin Durant would tell Orlando, you can trade for me, but next summer when I'm a free agent, I'm going somewhere else, just so y'all know. Just so you know. And then Orlando would say, oh, well, then now we're not willing to give up all this stuff for 1 year of Kevin Durant. If we're going to give up all this stuff, we need to get multiple years of Kevin Durant. So if Durant nerfs his own market by restricting which teams he'd be willing to stay with long-term, and that is his prerogative. That's something he is able to do. He can help steer his landing spot here. It's possible that the market dwindles down to the point where moving Kevin Durant just doesn't make sense, or the Suns can't find an offer that makes sense. And if that's the case, and you're going to be stuck trying to bring back Durant, Beal, and Booker, which we found simply does not work, could the Suns then say, well, the only other thing we can change is the head coach. The problem is, look, we've seen instances here where Kevin Durant and Mike Budenholzer, they've had their little issues, right? Budenholzer the other day put his arm on KD. KD rips his arm away. They've been seen getting into these little conflicts here and there, all this stuff. I tend to not read into too much of this, right? Because it's in the heat of battle. Sometimes tempers flare. This kind of stuff happens. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But maybe there is a little thing between Budenholzer and KD. The bigger question, though, is not so much does KD like Mike Budenholzer. The bigger question is, does Devin Booker like him? Because Devin Booker's their long-term piece. But let's say Booker also says, yeah, let's move on for Mike Budenholzer. Here's the problem for the Suns organization. When you look at what's going on with them right now, you look at all of their struggles, is that Coach Bud's fault? Is primarily, if we were to divide up the blame pie in Phoenix, does Mike Budenholzer get the biggest piece of that pie? I would say no. Say no, he does not. Now, does he deserve some of it? Yes, absolutely. As any coach would. Any coach deserves some of it. But is he the main reason why this Suns team is struggling so badly? No. You know what it is? It comes down to roster construction. It comes down to the Phoenix Suns decided to flip the middle finger, double barrel it at the new CBA and say, we don't care about any kind of spending restrictions. I've got tons and tons of money, Matt Ishbia says. I am going to make it rain, and I'm going to add superstars to this team. And I don't care what the cost is. I don't care what the restrictions are, the penalties, whatever. I've got so much money that doesn't matter. Well, the new CBA was set up specifically to punish teams with that mindset, specifically to go after teams doing what the Phoenix Suns did. It's why the Clippers decided not to sign Paul George to a new contract. Looking pretty smart for that right now, by the way. But the Clippers lost Paul George in part because now owners who have infinite money like Steve Ballmer does, well, now they're actually punished with their ability to win, to build out a roster and build a winning team rather than being punished financially. Steve Ballmer could spend into the luxury tax as far as he wants. The repeater, who cares? His money is endless. So it doesn't hurt him at all if you punish him financially. Where it hurts him is when you punish his ability to build out his team. So that's why the new CBA is set up the way that it is. And what the Phoenix Suns are finding out is that it's no joke. When you look at the roster they've put together, they just don't have pieces that fit alongside KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. And they can't spend to get those correct pieces. I think under the new CBA, a big three, it's still possible, but it better damn well be the right big three. They have to inherently fit together because you're not going to find the glue pieces, at least not for the limited amount of money that you've got, to make it all fit together. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, they all inherently do the same thing. They put the ball in the basket. Now, obviously, Durant is an all-time great. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer easily. But Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, they don't fit. You need at least one of those guys to be a star because they do the other stuff, because they rebound, they block shots, they get to loose balls, they get steals, they force turnovers. All that kind of stuff has to matter, and that's not what those three guys do. So it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. Is that Mike Budenholzer's fault? No. He can do everything he can, but the Suns are effectively handcuffed in terms of building out a competent roster. Yusuf Nurkic, that didn't work out. They traded DeAndre Ayton to get him. Obviously, that has not gone their way. They moved on from him. They went and got Nick Richards. He's been okay for them. Royce O'Neal, they went and spent to get him. He's done some good things. It's still not enough for this Suns team. I don't look at this and say this is Mike Budenholzer's fault. But let's say even if the Suns do, even if the Suns say, you know what, if we turn Coach Bud into someone else, this would be beneficial for us. Well, guess what? They just signed him to a 5-year deal last summer. 5 years, $50 million. So think about what that would mean. That would mean, and by the way, coaching contracts, similar to regular player contracts, in that if you want to waive a coach, you can, but you still got to pay him. Just like if a player has guaranteed money, let's say a player has 4 years remaining on their deal, you could waive that player, but you still got to pay him. You got to pay him whatever the guaranteed money is on the contract. That's why it's guaranteed money. Now, maybe at the end of Bud's contract, there's a non-guaranteed year or a team option, something like that. Sometimes we see that in coaching contracts, but he probably has at least 3 years left on this deal. So if you were to fire Mike Budenholzer right now, at the end of the season, let's say you move on from Coach Bud, you're going to pay him for 3 more years, at least, maybe 4. Because again, he just signed a 5-year deal last summer to not coach your team. You're going to pay him to not coach for you. And here's where that's really problematic. You're already paying Frank Vogel to not coach the team. He got a 5-year deal the summer before. So now you're stacking up. Now, not only have you flipped the double middle finger, the double barrel at the CBA, now you're stacking up coaches that you're going to pay to not coach for you. You're already paying Frank Vogel for at least a few more years to not coach your team. Do you really want to pay Mike Budenholzer, who you believed just not even a year ago right now was the guy that you wanted, 2-time coach of the year? You believe that. Now you're going to move on from him just to appease Kevin Durant, who you're going to be trying to trade all season anyway? It really comes down to Devin Booker. If Devin Booker says, if it draws the line in the sand and says, Bud doesn't go, I want out. But that doesn't really seem to be where we're at right now. So if the Phoenix Suns, in their desperation to change something about their roster, ultimately leads them to keep Durant, keep Booker in a situation that we know it's been proven does not work, and move on from Mike Budenholzer, hoping that changing out the coach, which is the easiest thing to do, by the way, but if they think changing out the coach is suddenly going to make this roster work, I think they're sorely mistaken. I think reality is the CBA has proven that it can hold strong and force teams to not overspend, because the Suns are now the cautionary tale. They've got the top-end talent, but they don't have the depth around them. It's why I think the wave of the future moving forward, it is 2-star roster builds, 2 stars, the right pieces around them. The Suns are going to be the model that everybody points to, saying, see, this is why a big three does not work. But everybody, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. The Suns, they've made a lot of mistakes that have put them in this spot. 11th seed in the Western Conference. Who knows? Maybe they'll make a mistake yet again, and they'll move on from Coach Bud way too early and then be out there on the coaching market once again while they're still paying 2 coaches to not coach their team. Maybe they'll be looking for a third one this summer. But everybody, give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. And don't forget to go check out our latest video about the return of Anthony Davis and what that means for the Dallas Mavericks.